educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank y'all very much for tuning in today. I have an energy-packed show for you today. I have an individual who is accomplished, driven, passionate, engaging, and an energetic pioneer woman. She encourages audiences to reprogram their subconscious minds to challenge their preconceived notions of what they are capable of and unleash their inner selves and discover the champion that has always been inside of them. As an award-winning author, doctor, entrepreneur, and mentor, I'm not going to give her name yet, has inspired 100,000 patients across America to be the best version of themselves. She's appeared on radio shows, over 30 podcasts, and I thank her today for coming on to ours. I appreciate her coming on, and I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Cindy Starke. Dr. Cindy, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Maurice, for letting me have the opportunity to talk to you and to your listeners this afternoon.
Sure. Thank you very much. So, one of the things that we talked about in the green room, right? We want to talk about fear and failure going to the finish line, right? And
Okay.
A lot of us, we can't make it to the finish line because of those two factors. So what is it that has helped you to get to not the finish line, but continue on this journey of life?
Yeah, well, if I may, we were talking about the actual thing in my story that is titled "From Fear and Failure to the Finish Line." So I'm going to talk about that triathlon. So I had this great idea when I was 46 years old to do a triathlon, and I had never biked long distances or swam in the open ocean or open water. I just scooped around in the lake or the pool, and then, just biked in tennis shoes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I had run a 5K. Well,
Okay.
I chose this really long triathlon called an Ironman triathlon to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to hire a coach, and I found a training partner. And this woman, was a really good cyclist and a really good swimmer, Maurice. And she was my fitness coach. And I think where all of this journey started and this unlocking of the potential of the human mind is that she didn't even make it to the start line. I have this phrase, toe the line. You're so courageous that you towed the line. I'm like, what does that mean? And someone said, just to put your toe on the start line. Because so many people sign up for these things, they start training, and then they just fall off because, fear and failure. Her this particular lady, she had, definitely some situations go on in her life. Her mom had gotten sick, and she was raising a daughter by herself. But every little thing that could have stopped me, I just never let it stop me. And the very first day I go out to learn how to long distance cycle, I broke something in my thumb. I didn't let that stop me. The book that I wrote about this whole journey was how even when I finally went to the start line, I got pulled off of the course because I was a little bit too slow on the bike. They pulled me off 8 hours into the endurance event that day. I didn't let that stop me. I just kept on going, and I just realized, holy crap, like all you got to do is just not let fear and failure define you, and don't let that be the end of your story, and just keep on going no matter what. And that just opened up everything in my life from that point forward.
So unfortunately, we don't take that step. Like you said, you had so many moments where even you kept putting your foot on the line, you kept getting pulled off, you kept getting derailed or whatever else. And a lot of times, just someone saying, hey, you can't do that. Hey, that will never work. Things like that, unfortunately stops us from moving forward. And for someone like yourself who's had other life challenges, right? those type of things ultimately gets into our mind, gets into our brain, and it really derails us. So what else? What part of the word fortitude did you have to, define, to get to this point, or energy or whatever it is? Like, where did you have to dig deep from, and where did that come from?
I have a simple answer. I would just say it came from God, because I don't know where it came from. It's just in me. And, it's so interesting that you say that, because the same thing you call fortitude, my father called gumption. And he asked me once, so I don't even think, you have this kid. It's interesting, Maurice, and my family, all the men are electricians and all the women are hairdressers. And then here comes baby Cindy, third born. And I went and got 2 doctorate degrees. And I think they just kind of looked at me sometimes wondering, where did this one come from? I mean, they never knew like what was inside my mind, because I
Right.
sometimes don't think they knew questions to ask me. But when I wrote that book about my triathlon adventure, and my father read that book, he said, I had no idea you went through that much, because I talk about my journey through medical school,
Right.
and how many times I wanted to quit, and all the stuff that happened to me during my journey to triathlon. And he said, how did you have the gumption to do that? And again, I attribute it to God. I think he just stuck something in me to make me be an example for others. A really good coach, because my coach would call me out on my bull crap every single week. I had to meet with him. I paid him $1,000 a month, and he met with me every week. And I would forward him my data on my Garmin, and he would say, "Hey, wait a minute. Why are you going 11 miles an hour? You can bike 17 miles an hour. What's up with this 11 miles an hour?" And I would have to give him an answer. And he was just really rode me hard. But yeah, I don't know where it came from, but unfortunately, I don't want to get rid of it, but I can't get rid of it even if I try. But one more thing I wanted to say is, you said something. If somebody says that'll never work out, that was the best thing anyone could ever say to me, because I'll tell you, let me show you how it can work out. You show me 120 ways why it can't work out, I'll show you the one way why it can work out. And I don't know, I just like to, I'm a real rebel like that, and I kind of like to break the rules. I don't know, it's just my nature. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what I'm here to prove, but I'm trying to share my story with people to tell them they can do the same thing.
So I think, as I'm listening to you, and I listen to some other podcasts where you talk about being, a doctor, your bedside manner, ultimately being quote unquote hero to some degree, right? Hero to some people, all those type of things, right? So in that mindset, in that space of being looked at, being respected, the fact that you were able to humble yourself to say, hey, I need a coach. At what point in time did you understand that, hey, you know what? I have all these accolades. I have accomplished all this stuff, but I need something more to push me to another level. How did you get to that point that, hey, I need a coach to get me to that other space?
I really think that kind of probably started when I was in medical school, because I really wanted to quit so many times, Maurice, and my teachers would, and my colleagues, like the other students in class, they would always push me. We would push each other. So, I was in medical school and graduate school from age 22 to 29. So I saw the importance of that from a very early age. But, when I was 46 wanting to do this triathlon, the lady that gave me the idea, that training partner of mine, Melanie, she had always been my coach, she in this thing called boot camp, Operation Boot Camp. And so, yeah, I just could see from a really early, in my fitness journey, I could see from a really early time that if someone's there riding you, you can lift more weights, you can do more reps. I think I just learned that through all these the sports people I was following. And so, yeah, I just knew if I wanted to do it and do it quickly, I needed to get a really good coach. So and then I had another training partner, Lisa, and she and I both used the same coach, and we both did the triathlon together. So yeah,
Nice.
I just know it's needed, because my brain will it'll still go to kind of cave when things get hard, and I just want someone on my side to root me on.
Yeah, and I think that's very important because all of us need some type of support. Whether or not we want to admit it or not, we need that
Yeah.
support. We need that someone that's going to push us or not just a little bit. But I ask because a lot of times we get caught up as entrepreneurs. Hey, we may not trust some people in certain spaces in our lives. We don't want them to get too close. Our ego is in the way, things like that. So I just appreciate what you're saying as far as having to calm down a little bit, just, hey, I do need someone else to help me through this journey.
Yeah, I just personally never do anything on my own. I just think that's just a recipe for disaster. I've just always learned, again, there's just power in numbers. There's it's just a lot more fun to go on the journey with other people than all by yourself. And I think I've checked my ego at the door a long time ago. And I just love having people to help me personally. It's the first thing I do with my paycheck every month is pay an executive coach that helps me through everything else I've been in my life. I recently went through a divorce and becoming an empty nester, and I retired from full-time medicine at the hospital. And she's just the first person I give myself is the support of her, So I just love having people in my corner.
So with that, how has your confidence been supported? How has it built up over a period of time? Again, you've gone through a lot of ups and downs, some hurdles, some mountains, some hills, some valleys, some water, so, so how has all of these things built up to where you are today as far as confidence and just understand like, hey, I can conquer anything?
Yeah, well, we'll tell you, I'm gonna be really honest. It does, I kind of go through hills and valleys. I'm not always really confident. I don't always really believe in myself. And I do think that's why I always have one, if not two coaches, normally like a personal one and a business one with me, or just accountability partners, other women that are entrepreneurs. I literally have 3 phone calls a week with accountability partners because all of us ladies, entrepreneurship can be kind of lonely. You're just like in your house by yourself a lot of the time.
Right.
And, everything else is more fun than building a business sometimes. And so I wouldn't say that it's always at an all-time high, Maurice. It definitely peaks and valleys.
Really?
Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
No, but I appreciate the vulnerability because a lot of times we don't want to show that. We want to show like you said in the green room. You felt a little intimidated by looking at my picture, right? This hardcore business person, and then you get on, and now I'm laughy, jokey, I'm having a conversation with you, and I understand the importance of a relationship. If you're too stark, you're too hard, you can't build a relationship. You can't move things forward. It allows people to be a little more easy and let things flow. We don't understand the importance of that sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but I just I just remembered something huge I just wanted to share. I recently I'm in a rental house right now, and the homeowner put it on the market to sell. Okay. And so I needed to move. And I'm finally ready to move out of the city where my ex-husband still lives. And I did not want to open up and tell my son and be vulnerable and say, hey, mom wants to move back down to where I went to medical school down in Atlanta. Are you going to be okay with that? Because he loves this hometown where I raised him. He just thinks it is the best town in the living world. And he's been all over the world, literally.
Nice.
And I realized, Maurice, it is okay for me to break his heart if that's not what he would have chosen for me, because I had to be vulnerable and I had to be honest with myself that I wanted to get out of this city. And so because I opened up to him and I said, I just want to let you know, I'm looking at a house in Atlanta and I'm moving out of the North Georgia mountains where we raised you. And I started crying 7 times. He didn't cry at all, but he knew that I was not wanting to hurt him, and it brought us closer together. So anyway, what you just said so hit my heart. you have to be willing to not always have things be so sunshine and butterflies.
Right.
You can be vulnerable and feel the deeper emotions and the more difficult emotions, and it makes people closer together.
Oh, most definitely. So, Dr. Cindy, I understand that we are short on time. You have things to do, right?
Yes.
But I would like to ask one thing. How can someone reach out to you, and find a champion within? How can you help them bring all this stuff out? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I say everything is on my website, drcindystarke.com, and there's an E on the end of Stark. And there's a way I love Facebook most, so
Okay.
I'm more active on Facebook, but you'll see my link to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel, all that stuff, and my book. But yeah, if they can just go to my website and look me up, I would love to help them. And I have a lot of free resources where I just kind of get together with people once a month and kind of host some subconscious repatterning workshops. I also host retreats deep in the woods. I take a small group of ladies from time to time on mountain retreats, and we do a lot of meditations by the creek and yoga and fireside cooking. And it's just, I would love to, whatever resonates with people, whether they want to do one-on-one work, group work, or a retreat. I have all those ways to work with me there on my website.
Nice. So, of course, this information will be in the show notes. So, if you're driving, as you're listening to this, or, if you're moving around, whatever it might be, you'll be able to click on that link whenever you get settled. But Dr. Cindy, I thank you very much for coming on the show. But, of course, I got to ask you my question, my would you rather question. Now, I know you was a little nervous when I said something to you earlier. Now, would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Well, I have a question. Do you know what's behind 3 doors, or do you know what's on the 2 forks in the road?
All right. So there are no parameters. It's left up to your imagination.
Okay. Well, I was immediately drawn to the fork in the road.
Okay.
Guys, I just feel like over and over again, you have opportunities, Maurice, at so many times, especially in my particular challenges, to take the high road or just to sit here and just like stay in the victim mentality. And I always choose the road less traveled, and I just rise above it. And I try to teach everybody around me to do the same. And I feel like God gives me these chances over and over again to show, yes, I'm going to take the high road. I promise. I'm better than that. I'm not a victim. And so, yeah, I'm going to choose the fork in the road.
Nice, nice. I mean, there's a lot of people that chose that, road less traveled. I want to look down the ground, see, the feet, all those type of things, see footprints, in the dirt. Some people wanted, the 3 doors made of plexiglass, made of whatever, ice cream, whatever it might have been, right? So they can kind of get an idea of, what they're getting themselves into. But I thank you very much for taking your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here.
Sure. Thank you. And y'all, thank y'all for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. And I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?
I love that tagline.